So how exactly do you tame an 80,000-pound beast before it even hits the highway? I mean, really, picture yourself standing next to one of those massive commercial rigs. The sheer size of it, it's literally staggering. Getting one of these things moving safely, well, it's not like just hopping in your sedan, turning the key, and hitting the gas. It's a huge responsibility. The stakes are incredibly high. Every single time a driver climbs up into that cab, they're taking command of a machine that absolutely demands rigorous preparation and total mechanical mastery.
Welcome to today's Explainer. We're diving right into the pre-trip foundation. Basically, inspections and gear shifting. Our main focus here is figuring out exactly what it takes to get a rig road-ready and moving safely. We're going to break down that crucial groundwork that every single commercial driver has to lay down before they even think about cruising at highway speeds. Let's take a quick look at the agenda for today. First, we'll cover the pre-trip tire check. Second, mandatory emergency rig gear. Third, mastering the double clutch. And finally, number 4, surviving hills and curves.
All right, let's jump straight into Section 1, the pre-trip tire check, where the rubber meets the road.
There's actually a pretty stark difference in the minimum tread depth rules depending on exactly where the tires sit on the truck. So, for your front steering tires, the ones directing literally all that weight, you need a minimum of 4/32 of an inch of tread depth in every major groove. But for all the other tires on the rig, the minimum is only 2/32 of an inch. Basically, those front steering tires demand double the tread depth of the rest. And it makes perfect sense when you think about it. They are doing the heavy lifting to steer that absolute beast of a vehicle. They need way more grip to prevent things like hydroplaning and to give the driver absolute control. And obviously, you should never, ever see any fabric showing through the tread or the sidewall.
Now, when a driver does their walk-around, they're on the hunt for some very specific, critical tire defects. We're talking about things like too much or too little air pressure, any cuts or physical damage, tread separation, mismatched sizes, or even cut valve stems. Oh, and you might even spot dual tires that are rubbing right up against each other. It's kind of fascinating because to an untrained eye, these might look like super minor details. But out on the highway, with 80,000 pounds of momentum pushing forward, these seemingly tiny defects are literally the difference between a smooth ride and a catastrophic, life-threatening blowout. A driver has to be completely meticulous.
Moving on to Section 2, Mandatory Emergency Rig Gear. Basically, the holy trinity of rig safety.
Okay, so there's a rule of 3 for emergency gear, a holy trinity that you absolutely must have on board before you roll. First up, a properly charged and rated fire extinguisher. Second, you need spare electrical fuses, unless the truck uses circuit breakers, of course. And third, warning devices for parked vehicles. That means 3 red reflective warning triangles, or you could use 6 fuses or 3 liquid burning flares. These 3 items, they are a completely non-negotiable lifeline. If a rig breaks down or, say, an electrical fire suddenly sparks up, the driver needs to grab these tools instantly to protect themselves, their cargo, and everyone else sharing the highway.
Up next is Section 3, Mastering the Double Clutch, the rhythm of the gears.
So most heavy commercial vehicles, they do not shift like your standard manual car. They use unsynchronized transmissions, which means you have to double clutch. Here's how this mechanical dance actually works. Step 1. You release the accelerator, push in the clutch, and shift to neutral all at the exact same time. Step 2. Release the clutch entirely. Now for Step 3, and honestly, this is where the magic happens. You let the engine and the gears slow down to the exact RPM required for the next gear. Step 4. You push the clutch back in and shift into that higher gear. And finally, Step 5. Release the clutch and press the accelerator. It is an incredibly sensory process. If you hang out in neutral for too long, the gears simply won't catch, and you absolutely cannot force it. It's all about feeling the rhythm of the machine.
Now, you might be wondering, how does a driver actually know exactly when to execute that complex shift? Well, there are 2 main ways. You can use engine speed, which basically means keeping an eye on your tachometer and shifting when the RPMs hit the top of their operating range, or you can use road speed. That's when you rely on the speedometer because you've memorized exactly what miles per hour range goes with each gear. Though, to be honest, over time, a really skilled driver will learn to just rely on the sound of the engine itself. The truck will literally talk to them, telling them when it's time to shift up or down based purely on the pitch and hum of the motor.
Okay, listen up, because this is a golden rule you absolutely cannot ignore. You must downshift before starting down a hill or entering a curve. Not during, before.
If you're coming up on a downgrade and you try to downshift after your speed has already started building up, well, you probably won't be able to get it into a lower gear at all. Actually, you might end up locked out of gear entirely, which means you lose all your engine braking effect. And entering a curve in the right lower gear, that lets you use engine power to push through the curve, keeping the whole massive vehicle stable. Waiting too long to shift literally robs the driver of all their control.
Which brings us right into Section 4, surviving hills and curves, managing gravity and momentum.
Out on routes like this one, gravity basically dictates everything. Coming down a really long, steep downgrade causes the speed of these heavy rigs to increase rapidly. Now remember our golden rule from a minute ago? You shift into that lower gear before you start the descent. You absolutely have to use the braking effect of the engine as your main way of controlling your speed. The engine's resistance actually holds the truck back, fighting against gravity. This gives you vital stability and control, so you aren't forced to over-rely on your actual friction brakes.
Because let me tell you, relying purely on your friction brakes on a serious downgrade is a deadly mistake. There's a quote that hits the nail on the head. If you continue to use the brakes hard, they can keep fading until you cannot slow down or stop at all. This is what we call brake fade. Think about it. If you force the brakes to do 100% of the work holding back 80,000 pounds on a steep mountain pass, they're going to overheat. And as they get hotter, you have to press the pedal harder and harder just to get the same stopping power. Until suddenly, they just stop working entirely. The braking power literally fades to zero.
I want you to consider this single number, 6. That stands for a 6% downgrade. To put that into perspective, this is the exact grade of the notorious Siskiyou Pass on Interstate 5 out in Oregon. Drivers hitting the Siskiyou Pass lose about 2,300 feet of elevation in just 6 miles at that 6% downgrade, all while trying to navigate sharp curves and, oh yeah, often dealing with thick fog and ice. That 6% grade is essentially gravity trying to rip an 80,000-pound truck right off the side of a mountain. It demands absolute respect, perfect gear selection, and totally flawless technique.
So how do they actually survive it? By using the proper supplemental braking procedure. Let's say your safe speed for a specific downgrade is 40 miles per hour. Step 1. When you hit 40, you apply the brakes hard enough to feel a definite solid slowdown. Step 2. You keep them applied until your speed drops to exactly 5 miles per hour below your safe speed, so down to 35 miles per hour. Step 3. You release the brakes completely for about 3 seconds to give them a chance to cool off. And finally, Step 4. As gravity inevitably pushes you back up to 40 miles per hour, you just repeat the whole process. This technique, known as snub braking, combined with the engine holding you back in a low gear, is quite literally a life-saving procedure.
As we wrap up today's explainer, I really want to leave you with a thought to chew on. Next time you pass a commercial rig on the highway, are you going to look at its tires and the driver behind the wheel a little differently? I mean, we share the road with these massive beasts every single day, but now you know the immense preparation involved. You know about the meticulous inspections, the complex physical rhythm of the double clutch, and the heavy responsibility required just to keep that truck moving safely in a straight line. It's practically a masterclass in physics and focus. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep feeding that curiosity, and I will catch you next time.